Stay with me as we expand our knowledge with videos from all over the internet that's going to make you question reality. Let's just start.
We all know the Vatican does some shady ass shit and they're keeping some secrets, but they're also sitting in front of something that is sketchy as hell too. Because during his weekly audience, if it's too cold outside, the Pope sits in front of this statue. Let's get closer. The fuck is this? Because it's supposed to be Jesus or the Lord rising from the ashes of a nuclear explosion. I don't know. To me, that looks like skulls. I don't know what's going on with the head of it. It looks like a serpent almost. And then, hear me out. The building that this is in is also shaped like a serpent. Look, this is the outside of it. This building right here, okay? Looks like a snake's head, but could be brushed off as it's just a building, Keela. You're reading too much into it. But hold on. This is when you enter the building. You can see there's two snake eyes, and honestly, it looks like a tongue leading up to where that statue is. And then these guys' uniforms are fucking fire. I have a shit ton of questions about the Vatican. This is just one of them. Like the other one is, why do y'all have a telescope that used to be named Lucifer? And why do y'all even have a telescope in Arizona? But that's a whole other question.
The only city in the world without a car. The only way to get around is by boat or on foot. This is the Italian city of Venice. There are no bicycles and no traffic lights. The whole city is full of waterways and alleys. If you want to go to a public toilet, you have to take a boat. You have to pay to go to the toilet. To get to certain places, you can also use the alleys. Once you're in, you can't get out for 2 hours. When you come here, you can go to St. Mark's Square. You can see the largest church in the medieval period. You can take a boat trip to see the Golden Courtyard and the traces of splendor. Venice is counting down the days of its life. The foundations are sinking and the sea level is rising due to climate change. The weather in the area is often stormy and rainy. Some experts say that in 50 years, this marvel of the sea will be lost forever. If you have the chance, you must visit it with your family. Follow me to learn more about the place.
The mature Christian is almost impossible to offend. Why is that the mark of maturity?
If I understand that I'm living in the kingdom of God, that I'm secure and safe, I have a Father who's protecting me, providing me what I need when I need it. Now I'm in a place where my security is established. When the offense comes, when the offending act or word comes, I've got just enough distance that I'm able to respond differently. Our fuse is really short. We don't have the distance. So the word comes in, the criticism, the knock, wherever it comes, and I have to react. I've trained myself to react that way. Dallas had trained himself not to. He had a distance. You know, we would be like waiting for our plane to go somewhere, and it would be delayed. My reaction was, how dare that airline delay this trip? And Dallas would be like, why don't we get some chocolate? You know, he just would be like, let's just, we're here and we're not going to fix this. So let's enjoy that. And he was genuinely not mad.
Trump is now planning to sign a new executive order that makes all sexual-based crimes against children a federal offense, meaning a death sentence. I don't know about you, but I agree with this. I agree with this wholeheartedly. This is going to save a lot of kids from being sexually harmed and going through that trauma that this brings upon people. Not to mention all the children and adults that have already gone through this stuff. When this law comes to pass, it's most definitely going to make child predators think twice.
So check this out, y'all. I guess this is their way of revealing these underground cities to us. So y'all know how Elon Musk is exposing everything, right? Well, he just exposed this huge underground city full of limestones where the retirement applications get processed. Yes, y'all, this huge underground mine that they're calling Time Warp is where retirement applications go and get processed. Check this out.
There's a limestone mine where we store all the retirement paperwork. And you look at a picture of this mine. We'll post some pictures afterwards. And this mine looks like something out of the 50s because it was started in 1955. So it looks like it's like a time warp. And then the speed, the limiting factor is the speed at which the mine shaft elevator can move determines how many people can retire from the federal government. And the elevator breaks down and sometimes, and then nobody can retire. Doesn't that sound crazy?
I'm sure you guys have plenty questions, like why is retirement applications being processed underground in a huge underground mine that they're calling Time Warp, and predicated upon if the elevator works or not depends on how many people can retire. What is going on here? How come we never knew about this? And why is Elon Musk exposing everything? I told y'all that shift is here. The shift in power, the shift in everything. Big shifts going on. Let me know what you guys think about this video. What is he talking about? Like, follow, and share for more videos like this. Let's continue to get this shift. Peace out.
I'm going to share with you an experiment that was conducted by the U.S. Army that actually solidifies Neville Goddard, the guy behind me, all of his teachings. This is a study, an experiment that scientists cannot explain. So this is a very, very powerful experiment that actually proves that your world is you pushed out, and that everything is connected, and that separation is an illusion, and then it backs up what consciousness and what we're living in is a virtual reality. This was an experiment that was conducted and reported in the journal Advances. Okay, so the Army performed experiments to determine precisely whether emotion and DNA connection continues following a separation. And if so, at what distances? Okay, so what they're going to do in this study is basically they get a human being and they take DNA out of his mouth to do a DNA sample, and they take the DNA into another room or even hundreds of miles away. They actually furthered this experiment and took his DNA hundreds of miles away from him. Okay, and monitored it electrically. They monitored and to see if his cells reacted in his body or out of his body the same way that the cells that are still in his body, and see if that connection still remains even though the DNA is outside of his body. Okay, so the researchers started by collecting a swab of tissue and DNA from the inside of a volunteer's mouth. This sample was isolated and taken to another room in the same building, where they began to investigate a phenomenon that modern scientists say shouldn't exist. So science is saying that this shouldn't happen. Okay, so if all science is true, then if you take the cells out of my body and you take them away from me, they shouldn't react to the things that I do here now in my body. So if you give me stimulating magazines right now, you take that DNA out of my mouth or out of my body, take it away from me, it should not react. Oh, that's what scientists are saying. It should not react, okay? But it does. And I'm going to share this. I'm going to keep sharing this, okay? In a specially designed chamber, the DNA was measured electrically to see if it responded to the emotions of the person it came from. The donor, who was in another room several hundred feet away, they actually did this with actually several hundred miles away too, and I'll share that with you guys too. In his room, the subject was shown a series of video images designed to create genuine states of emotion inside of his body. This material ranged from graphic wartime footage to erotic images to comedy. The idea was for the donor to experience a spectrum of real emotions within a brief period of time. While he was doing so, in another room, his DNA was measured. It was being monitored. His DNA in another room was being monitored while he was watching these video clips and these video images. Okay, so they were watching in another room. His DNA was being measured for its response. When the donor experienced emotional peaks and dips, his cells and DNA showed a powerful electrical response at the same instant time. So his cells in the other room were actually reacting as if they were still in his body.
Did you know that there will be a tunnel connecting London to New York? Imagine hopping on a train in London, gliding effortlessly across continents and oceans, and stepping off in the heart of New York City in less than an hour. Picture spending your day working in the bustling metropolis, taking a small walk, and then catching the evening train back home to London, all in the same day. Sound like sci-fi, right?
Yeah,
well,
right?
The project known as the $20 trillion transatlantic train tunnel is getting more real than you can imagine. Yes, transatlantic, which means that this tunnel will connect the European continent with the North American continent. It would span 3,400 miles under the ocean, making the current 7-hour flight seem ancient. And who knows, you might see Atlantis while you're on the way. But Londoners are no strangers to underwater tunnels. The Channel Tunnel already connects England to France, and even offers direct train rides to Paris, Brussels, and Amsterdam. Still, a tunnel to NYC would take engineering to a whole new level. What makes this difficult to build? Well, the extreme underwater pressure, safety challenges, and environmental concerns are some of the reasons. But let's not forget the giant elephant in the room, the $20 trillion price tag for this project. That's basically the GDP of the US, and a quarter of the world's entire GDP. This is why we're probably not going to see this project come to light for the next few decades. But who knows? Maybe your kids will hop on this tunnel one day and go from Camden, London, to Dalton School in New York every day.
Instead of buying new clothes, why don't you save the money and go travel? Because people that haven't seen your old clothes yet.
So satisfying to watch. Sounds so good.
Guess the top 10 countries with the most beautiful woman via the top 10s.
Brazil.
Brazil, number 2.
Yeah.
Some argue number 1.
Yeah, some would say America.
USA made the list, number 5.
We got good people over here. We breed them well.
Well, okay, interesting wordage.
Italy.
Italy is number 6, right behind the US of A.
See, now I'm feeling a little good. What about Spain?
Spain, not on the list.
There's more South America.
No, there isn't.
Really?
Mainly Europe and Asia.
Okay, France.
Not on the list.
Russia.
That is number 3.
Yeah, that's wild. That's a
The
wild
Russian
take.
woman.
That's wild take. Listen, don't hurt me, Russians, but wild take.
Next to Russia.
China?
Like right next to Russia.
Ukraine?
Yeah, Ukraine is number 8.
Ukrainian women.
They breed them well.
They breed them well. Let's think more Europe. I could think Europe. Greece.
Stay up north.
I don't know North Europe.
Yes,
I don't
you do.
know.
Where
No,
did I go?
You went to Switzerland.
No, I didn't.
Sweden.
You say Switzerland every time.
Sweden.
I went to Sweden. That's the number 1 most attractive women.
Yeah, you said they were attractive.
I did.
there.
There's also another one around there. It ends in an N.
Finland.
Not Finland.
Greenland.
No, not Greenland.
Iceland.
Not Iceland.
Poland.
There you go. Poland is number 7. Okay, now 2 in Asia.
2 in Asia. Okay, Japan.
Japan's number 4. That makes sense. There you go.
India on there.
No.
Taiwan.
I think it's near Taiwan.
Philippines.
Yes, Philippines, number 10. Look at him, geography genius.
I'm a genius. I know everything.
And then this one is not in Asia, but it's south of the Philippines.
Australia.
Australia. Beautiful women there, apparently.
Everything changed in my life when I realized everything I ever wanted was actually creating all of the suffering in my life. Because want means that I have this energy of desperation, like I'm trying to escape my current reality. Oh, I want a better body. It's because I'm not confident with the body I have. I want more money. It's because I feel poor. I've got that poverty mindset. I want that loving relationship. I'm lonely. I don't have the pride and the confidence in myself. Want was equating to suffering. So I had to transform my mind instead, using my thoughts, beliefs, and emotions to create have. Gratitude within who I am, looking at my body for what it was and saying, look at you, this is good and this is good and that is great and I'm improving here, but I'm celebrating all this. What happened? Much better body image and confidence, wealth and financial freedom. Well, don't look at all the lack you have created by the want. Look at what you have. You're doing well here and there and there and there. This money's coming in, this money's coming in, that bill is paid. Gratitude, what happens? All of a sudden, all this abundance starts coming into my life. Tenfold wealth and all these enrichment and promotions and opportunity. Loving life? Okay, well, I can't want the loving person. I have to have love within myself, appreciation for who I am, really embracing all of my different flaws and faults and nature and character. All of a sudden, guess what magically happens? I walk into a place and meet this beautiful, loving woman who's attracted to me. We got married in November. We have a 3-year-old together. Everything changes for you when you get rid of what you want and start embracing what you have.
Like that.
Energy is a currency. Stop people pleasing. When you are people pleasing people that actually don't give a crap about you, or who are not giving you the same amount of energy back, it's like energetically you are giving them free money. Why would you give people who don't care about you, don't wish you well, don't mean you well, free money? I hate to break it to you, but when you people please, you're actually telling yourself that you have low self-esteem. You don't put yourself on a high enough pedestal, you think everybody else comes before you. 99.9% of the time, people pleasers are bullied or they have emotionally unavailable parents, where you feel like you need to earn love or you have a need to be needed. In your journey of self-love, you will have to realize that people pleasing gets you nowhere. I'm not saying be a super mean person and just screw over everybody in your path. However, there's a fine line between giving people through the goodness of your heart, not expecting anything back, versus being a people pleaser. People pleasers actually do things to want to get something back. You have an expectation of wanting something back. And that is why you are wasting your currency, your energy on somebody or something that is not going to give you the same amount back. When you start to see your energy as money, it will actually start to play on your mind to make you way more conscious of what you're giving your energy to. We as human beings don't like to waste money, but for some reason we are okay wasting our emotions and we are okay wasting our time. How does that make sense?
Makes sense.
If you deplete your energetic bank account, you will have nothing left to make yourself happy, to please yourself, to put in the energy into your aspirations in life. When you're energetically bankrupt, you will not have enough for yourself. That is just a fact. And here's the worst part about people pleasing. Nobody's forcing you to do it. You are willingly depleting yourself. If you needed a wake-up call, this is your video.
The British Empire was never about spreading civilization. It was a survival strategy for Britain's ruling class. Look at the decadence that they had in medieval Europe. Britain is a small island with limited resources, and they had visions of grandeur. Colonialism was about wealth extraction, racial domination, and military control. There were two types of colonies, the ones that got whitened and the ones that got exploited. In settler colonies, British settlers and European settlers took over, and in some places wiped out indigenous populations completely. In the best cases, the settlers claimed the land and the native populations got pushed into the background as they made the lands British and Westernism emerged. But extraction colonies were never meant to be British. This is where they stole resources and used cheap labour to control trade. When indigenous populations would resist, they massacred them in their millions. They used divide and conquer tactics and puppet leaders to maintain control. They would play mind games with populations, sometimes using them to fight their battles and sometimes crushing them themselves directly, or getting them to crush the other, greasing the wheels, and using local elites who could be bought cheap to divide and rule. This has kept colonies weak and dependent on the West ever since. The British didn't rely on brute force to control territories. They would manipulate existing power structures, turning tribes, religions, everybody against each other, so that no one noticed what they were doing. In India, this manifested as divisions between Hindus and Muslims that led to the partition in 1947 between India and Pakistan. In the 1960s in Nigeria, they caused a civil war, and in Kenya, they would recruit African elites into their bureaucracies. This is still used today, with Western influence stirring internal conflicts in the global south. For example, before the US went into Syria under Obama, the US and Britain trained rebel groups, causing the Syrian war. And then, of course, when people flee from these countries, they meet active England, who blame it all on immigrants. Britain has always framed colonialism as a gift to the colonised people. It's something you hear in Ireland, actually. Oh, the British built our roads. They only built roads so that they could extract resources. And it was indigenous workers under brutal conditions who actually built them. They just overseen the whole thing. In 1899, British poet Rudyard Kipling wrote, "It was the duty of the white man to help the less developed people." By the 20th century, direct colonial rule was too expensive and facing too much resistance. So instead of running colonies directly, they set up economic, financial, and military systems that keep former colonies weak, trapping nations in loans, forcing them to sell their resources cheap, and privatize everything to the free markets. Any anti-Western government leaders get assassinated, overthrown. Iran, Chile, Libya. And they use NATO and military control under the guise of peacekeeping and counter-terrorism. Western media blames the victims,
opposite of what they are doing.
Says Africa is poor because of corruption.
But there's NATO and
we never talk
all
about
these
this.
other organizations
After
that
World
they
War
have.
II, Britain was broke, and the US emerged as the dominant player, using the exact same playbook.
Okay.
Institutions like the UN and NATO and the IMF were set up to be neutral, but so far they've only functioned as colonial management tools. Colonialism never died, it just turned into a financial empire, a Ponzi scheme, if you will. Our world is being looted of its resources. Corporations own everything and use the American government and its military presence, funded by taxpayers. Then they call it development and foreign aid and humanitarian intervention. Humanitarian intervention? Humanitarian intervention? You want to talk to your own veterans?
Now, as many of you may know, the Mona Lisa is considered to be the most famous painting in the world. But what many of you may not know is the guy who painted it, Leonardo da Vinci, had a few problems when it came to the painting. See, back in the day, he was broke and everybody knew it. So Lisa, her name was Lisa, not Mona Lisa, Lisa's husband, Francesco, hits up Leonardo da Vinci. He says, "Yo, Leo." Leo says, "What's the word, baby?" Francesco said, "Chillin', chillin'. But you broke. Everybody know it. So come on over here. Make me this painting. I'm going to give you a little bit of change." Leonardo said, "All right, I'm coming." Hey, see, the thing is, that boy Leonardo could paint. So he started making the painting, and it's really good. But suddenly, his career starts to take off as soon as he starts the painting. He starts getting commissioned for works that are going to pay him a lot of money. So, of course, he puts the Mona Lisa on the side. He need to get that paper. Leonardo puts the painting off for 3 years. Francesco, the dude who wanted him to make the painting, hits him up. He says, "Yo, Leo, where my painting at?" Leo said, "You know, that boy switched up. That boy started getting money." He said, "Man, I was finna get to it, but the paper was coming in." Francesco said, "Leo, where my painting?" Leo said, "You heard what I said. It ain't finished." Francesco said, "Well, I'm not paying you for it." Leo said, "Man, I don't worry about that little change. You can keep that." Yeah, that boy Leo was in a big time now. But he's an artiste though, so he still wants to finish the painting. He always comes back and works on the Mona Lisa. He carried it with him wherever he went. Now, at a certain point, he gets invited to the King of France's court to just be an artist there chilling. France is like, "Yo, that painting you always got with you, Mona Lisa, man, what that is?" Leo's like, "Man, it's just some painting I was trying to finish and all that." France is like, "Well, let me get that. I pay for it." Leo's like, "Oh, okay, you got it." And well, Leo sells the painting to the King of France, which is why the painting is owned by France, and it's in the Louvre, the French museum. And well, then the painting Mona Lisa becomes bigger than Leonardo and probably the King of France, probably Francesco, probably Lisa could ever imagine. The end.
There's a certain blood type that's, I think it's the rarest in the world. It's called RH negative blood type.
RH negative?
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's one of the literally the rarest blood type in the world.
RH
and
negative.
it's predominantly found in just one area in Europe. And what's interesting is the same place where they're from, where they find the blood type, they speak a dialect and a language that matches and originates from nothing around Europe.
Yeah.
So the theory is going, are they human / alien hybrids? Are they different humans, right? Because why do they have a different blood type? And also, one of the interesting traits of people with RH negative blood type is they have red hair. And as we know, red hair is a mutation. Like it's it's something very, very rare. Like you don't really find that anywhere. Now it gets even deeper, right?
Okay.
It's even deeper. So the theory goes even more that they're not aliens, but they're actually remember in the book of Enoch, they talk about fallen angels?
Yeah.
So in the book of Enoch, there's fallen angels and they gave birth to Nephilim. So Nephilim are giants, right?
Okay.
And they're half human, half angel, half fallen angel. The giants, when they're written in history, the way they're described is with red hair. And there's certain tribes of people that are still really, I think certain Maori tribes, they have red hair and they're like huge.
Holy fuck.
So people think if you have that Rh negative blood type, you could either be an alien or
a giant.
like a giant, or just originated, your bloodline came from giant.
Do you know where public schools buy their food from for lunches?
System.
Bali.
From the Department of Defense.
The DOD?
The DOD. It's a total scheme to where Department of Defense, they go out to these food companies and they get the contracts and then they turn around and sell it to the public school systems. They are in complete control over this profit line.
Oh, that's scary.
I think they said that,
I mean,
the school lunches is the only thing that's profitable in public schools.
That would make sense.
It would make sense, but like hiking up prices and like choice, like the school doesn't have a say in what they can get for lunch. They are totally dependent on the Department of Defense to provide the food.
Interesting.
It's just weird.
That is
like
super weird.
Department of Defense controlling the school lunches, I thought was super weird.
Yeah, I guess I'm ignorant to that connection because that doesn't make sense to me.
Just the man wanting to get some moolah.
Moolah moolah.
Or what are they putting in that food?
The number one killer in the U.S. right
but
now.
Also, any type of freaking chemicals they want.
Yeah, man.
MK Ultra.
Brainwashing.
You know what the K stands for? Kindergarten, middle school, M.
Meet Patrick Henry, the founding father who kept a woman chained in his basement. Call it insane, but after meeting with the Continental Congress, Patrick Henry would return home, but instead of going to the front door, he would secretly slip down a hatch into the basement. There, he'd find the woman chained to the bed. He'd feed her, watch her for a while, then leave under the cover of night, locking the door behind him. And this is where the story gets even weirder. You see, in 1873, Sarah Shelton went missing, a woman last seen with Patrick Henry. Of course, no one suspected such an upright man of something as sinister as abduction. But then Patrick Henry slips up. Patrick was a wealthy man, so of course he had several servants. And eventually, they heard strange sounds beneath the floorboards. Groans, thrashing, and muffled screams. He told them it was nothing and to stay away from the basement. But that didn't stop the rumors from spreading. Was someone trapped in the house? Who was it? And why had Henry taken them captive? Now listen close, because this next part is wacky. Remember, Patrick Henry believed in freedom. He invented the phrase, "Give me liberty or give me death." When Sarah Shelton Henry, his wife and mother of 5, gave birth to their 6th child, something changed inside her mind. And as the story goes, she went crazy. A doctor advised Henry to place her inside an insane asylum. But after witnessing the tortures at the institution, he vowed to never subject his wife to such treatment. The problem was, his wife was becoming increasingly volatile each day. Desperate and out of options, Patrick smuggled her secretly into the basement, leaving her there with a female servant, but not before making the servant swear to keep silent about the situation. The ending just gets worse. Each day, Patrick visited Sarah, and each day he watched her slip deeper into incoherency and violence, sometimes even forcing him to place her in a straitjacket. Common practice at the time, but now considered a form of torture. 3 years later, she passed away, leaving us with questions. Was Sarah Shelton actually insane, or could she have been suffering from postpartum depression? Did the isolation break her? In this hopeless situation, perhaps she saw only one path to freedom, and took her husband's words to heart. Give me liberty, or give me death.
Why the fuck would a vintage cartoon predict a future so dark? Just watch this.
Maybe not tomorrow, maybe never, but it's coming, and soon. Don't worry, kids. The government will help. The government cannot help itself, let alone you. So to take your minds off your troubles, I propose some kind of games, either hunger or squid.
Wait a minute. Didn't Trump just bring this up?
Problem is, we need double the energy we currently have in the United States. Can you imagine? And they said, wow, you're kidding. And I said, no, I'm not kidding. You don't have to hook into the grid, which is old and, could be taken out. If it's taken out, they wouldn't have any way to get any electricity.
It turns out that our own Congress already mandated a study. Yeah, they made their prediction.
And what does it look like if our power grid goes down?
If we truly have an outage that is nationwide, that lasts 9 months, the EMP Commission, which is a commission that was mandated by U.S. Congress, and it has much more authority and better funding than a congressional committee. They found that as many as 90% of Americans would die.
300 million people wiped off the map, just like that.
And when this happens, information and books are going to be some of the most powerful resources because nobody's going to have a clue what to do. Which is why everybody in my family has one of these. How to build your own water filter. How to make water out of drinkable air. How to charge your phone there's no electricity. How to get power out of dead batteries. How to make your own solar panel system. How to make emergency survival bread. How to use a radio in case of a blackout. And a bunch of other information all packed into this one book. Get one for your spouse. Get one for your kids. Get one for your friends. Stay prepared so you do not have to get prepared. My only issue with these is they already have sold out once this month, so if you see the orange card somewhere down below, make sure you get it while it's still on a sale.
So this guy, his name's Jimmy, and Jimmy has a problem. He's super lonely, but all that's about to change because he's about to be worth $3 billion. Now, Jimmy, he's 22 years old. He's a college student in Georgia studying computer science. He's also just kind of an awkward dude. He's never really been a popular guy, and he really wants friends. And one day, things start to change for him, because he gets involved early on in developing Bitcoin. And at some point, he obtains some of it and he stores it on this new dark web marketplace called Silk Road. A few years later, in 2012, he goes to the Silk Road site to withdraw all of his Bitcoin, and that is when something crazy happens. He accidentally double-clicks the withdraw button, and suddenly, bam, he gets back twice the amount he was trying to withdraw. It seems to be some sort of glitch that gives him double his money back. So Jimmy's looking at this like f***ing jackpot, and he decides to exploit this glitch hard. And over the next few days, he creates multiple accounts and deposits more Bitcoin tokens and quickly withdraws them using this double-click method. So he's basically just doubling his money over and over again. And pretty quickly, he steals more than 50,000 Bitcoin, which at this time in 2012 is worth around $600,000. And $600,000 is a lot of money to anyone, much less a college student like Jimmy. And now, for the first time in his life, he's got some money, and he's gonna try to use it to make some friends. And so he starts going out to local bars, buying shots for everyone. He's renting nice hotel rooms, shopping at Gucci. He's suddenly driving a Tesla. Then he goes and buys a new house out on the lake. And here's some actual pictures of his house. And this house has a bar in it, and it's stocked with alcohol, and it even has a stripper pole. A stripper pole! And suddenly, wouldn't you know it, everyone wants to hang out with Jimmy. Now he's a popular guy, and so he starts throwing these crazy parties for everyone. Here he is partying with two women. Here he is partying with two other women. And so, after all this time, old Jimmy finally has some friends. And this new lifestyle of his continues for years. And you would think he would run out of money spending it like this, but no. Because as the years go by, the value of crypto skyrockets. And so the value of his coin keeps going up and up. And by 2018, his stash is worth around an estimated $200 million. $200 million dollars. And Jimmy, he wants to keep his friends around, so he doesn't mind sharing the wealth with them. Like one time he takes them all on a private jet to fly to watch a college football game, and he pays for all of it. And here's a picture of him and his friends at the game. He even gives each friend $10,000 to go on a shopping spree in Beverly Hills. $10,000 a friend. And apparently he wants to impress people so bad that he keeps a suitcase full of cash in his room. And he'll show it to the women that he parties with, hoping that they'll like him and be his girlfriend. Of course, none of them do. Now, obviously, his friends know that he has money, and they definitely ask him about it. But he doesn't tell them that he stole it. No, he tells them that he's a successful crypto investor, and so that's just what they believe. But whatever, he has money, he's surrounded by people who like him, and none of them would ever screw him over. Until one day, Jimmy leaves on a trip. And while he's gone, someone, it's presumed to be one of his friends, someone breaks into his house. And this is actually surveillance footage of that break-in. Then, sometime later, Jimmy gets home, and he discovers that he'd been robbed. And this burglar took $400,000 cash and 150 Bitcoin. Because I guess he had physical versions of his Bitcoin, and they knew it was there, and they stole it. And so he calls the police to come investigate. But it's a burglary, so police don't really do anything, and the case ends up going cold. But old Jimmy, he isn't gonna let this go. And so he hires a local private investigator to look into it. And so she starts investigating, and she immediately gets suspicious of Jimmy's friends. And she starts low-key following them around, stalking their socials, and conducting background checks on them. Until she finally feels like she's figured out which one of them broke into his house and ripped him off. But apparently, when she tells Jimmy, Jimmy doesn't believe her. I mean, he trusts his friends too much. He doesn't want to give them up. And so he and the private investigator, they decide to go their separate ways, and his burglary case remains open. Meanwhile, the IRS Criminal Investigation Unit, they've been investigating a hack on the Silk Road. Not Jimmy's glitch Bitcoin heist from all those years ago, but a completely different hack. And during that investigation, they also happened to notice that back in 2012, 50,000 Bitcoin were taken by someone, some unknown person. They don't know who. So they start investigating this and following this trail. And they can see transactions that lead back to an exchange, but they don't know whose account it is. But then, Jimmy transfers around $800 worth of Bitcoin to that exchange, and it requires him to enter his name and his address. So now, the IRS Criminal Investigation Unit knows that the 2012 Bitcoin thief is Jimmy. And now they're gonna go after him. And so, boom, they put together a little sting operation. And one day, these agents suddenly show up to Jimmy's house, sort of undercover. And they pretend they're investigating the burglary where his Bitcoin and cash were stolen. And since that burglary investigation was never closed, it makes sense to Jimmy why they're still investigating it. And so Jimmy invites these agents into his place, and he's super nice to them, and he seems to love that they're there, because remember, he really wants friends.
You guys get this solved, I'm going to invite y'all up for a beer whenever y'all want. All right.
And so he's totally just chilling with these agents like they're his boys. He even tells them how he used to keep a suitcase full of cash around, and that he'd show it to women hoping to get laid.
You know, I was trying to impress this girl back then.
Did it work?
Nope.
That never does. Never does.
And the agents, they just keep charming him, pretending to be his friend. And he brings them down to his basement, he shows them his bar and his stripper pole.
Is this your workout? Nope, that's for the girls. Okay. Nice.
Now these agents, they have to have a sense that Jimmy is a lonely guy, because they keep talking to him and they keep charming him. And finally, they get him on the topic of Bitcoin. And they're like asking him to explain it, and they're asking him how long he's been involved in it. And he ends up opening up his laptop and showing them one of his crypto wallets filled with a ton of Bitcoin, like 60 or 70 million dollars worth. And visually seeing this wallet with their own eyes ends up being all the evidence these agents need. And so they leave. And later they come back with a search warrant, and boom, they bust in and raid his house. And eventually, bam, they arrest him. Here's his mugshot.
It was one of the biggest mysteries in crypto. Who stole 50,000 Bitcoins, which would ultimately be worth more than $3 billion?
Yeah, at the time of Jimmy's arrest, his Bitcoin was worth $3.4 billion. Oh my god. But at the end of it all, he cooperates with police, he forfeits all of his Bitcoin, he takes a plea deal, and ultimately he's sentenced to about 1 year in prison. Now, this is just a guess, but I'm willing to bet that none of those friends he was partying with, the ones he gave $10,000 to go shopping, I'm willing to bet that none of them went to visit him in prison. And that none of them are around now that he's not worth $3 billion or whatever. That's just a guess.
The following footage was captured by a passenger on a commercial airline. They were glancing outside when they noticed something weird, what appeared to be beings standing on top of the clouds. And it's more than one. But what is it? It couldn't possibly be humans out there. What did they capture? Take a look at this.
They are so huge because it's far away.
Beef with Kendrick Lamar or 50 Cent? Good answer, because it doesn't matter who you choose, you're screwed either way. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking. Hold on, I saw what Kendrick Lamar did to Drake. What 50 Cent do? Well, you see, it's not about what he's done to the people he's beefed with. It's about what he's doing to the people he's beefed with. Because you see, when you start beefing with 50 Cent, you beefing for life. He will never stop. Which is why Curtis 50 Cent Jackson has a problem. He has so many beefs with so many people, including some of the most dangerous crime lords on the planet, which is where our story begins. Meet Big Meech, founder and leader of the Black Mafia family, aka BMF, which at one point was one of the biggest criminal organizations in the US. Now, something important to note is BMF was really popular in hip-hop culture, which is adjacent to black culture. But something even more important to note is when I say popular, I do not mean celebrated. I mean more like infamous, kind of like the Yakuza or the Italian Mafia. Now, Big Meech and BMF eventually get taken down by federal agents, but when something like this happens, eventually people are gonna be knocking on your door to make a movie, which is where 50 Cent comes in. You see, he produces movies and TV shows, so he says, hey, Big Meech says, 50 Cent says, hey, let's make a movie or TV show about your life. Big Meech says, oh, that's a good idea, but that might be a little complicated. Because you see, listen closely, apparently, Big Meech signed his life rights away to a woman named Tammy Cohen. Now, what life rights are is basically the right to make a book, a TV show, a movie about someone's life. And again, Big Meech signed his life rights over to Tammy Cohen. We'll talk about why in a second. But first, back to 50 Cent. He goes to Tammy. He says, hey, Big Meech and I, we're trying to make a TV show. He said, you got his life rights. She said, I do got his life rights. He said, okay, well, can we make this TV show? She says, for sure. And while they make the TV show, it's a hit. Big Meech is played by his son, Lil Meech. Everything's running smoothly. But here's where things start to get wicked. Big Meech gets released from prison. Remember this picture I showed you earlier? Does that look like jail to you? You're not paying attention. Log in. Everybody said, yo, Big Meech is out. And then people said, yo, Big Meech is out. I got people thinking, one of the biggest crime lords. How did he get released? Federal agents, what did he do again? Federal agents said, nothing too crazy. He worked with the cartel, allegedly had people sold about 300 million in, yeah. People said, whoa, Nelly, that sounds like a life sentence. And he still look alive. Because you see, the thing is, he was only in jail for 15 years. He got a 30-year sentence. Only did 15. Now, I don't know how good your math is, but that's only half the time. And when someone gets out that early for such big crimes, people usually think they snitched, giving up other people so they can get out early. Now, we're going to put whether he snitched or not to the side as well. It'll make more sense as the story goes. What do we have on the side so far? We have, why did Big Meech sign his life rights away? And is Big Meech a snitch or not? Keep those questions in the back of your mind. Okay, so Big Meech out of prison. Again, people are questioning if he's a snitch, but it's not like a huge deal. Big Meech suddenly pops up in a picture with Rick Ross. Rick Ross says, yo, Big Meech home. We're going to do a welcome home Big Meech concert. Everyone goes, whoa, but damn. One of the many people 50 Cent is beefing with is Rick Ross. Apparently, 50 Cent looked at Rick Ross funny at an award show and they've hated each other ever since. 50 Cent said, oh, Big Meech, you going to take pictures with people that I don't like? Okay, everybody. Big Meech is a snitch. Everybody said, excuse me? 50 Cent said, y'all heard me? Big Meech is a tattletale. Big Meech said, I usually don't address this kind of stuff, but I'm not a tattletale. 50 Cent tripping. 50 Cent said, well, I'm tripping? Why don't we just ask Tammy if I'm tripping? Remember, Tammy has Big Meech's life rights. So 50 Cent plays an audio recording of Tammy saying, yeah, let's just tell the truth. Let's tell the truth. 50 Cent said the truth being that Tammy and Big Meech started having problems. So Tammy went over to 50 Cent and said, hey, by the way, truth is, Big Meech is a snitch. And that him and Tammy are going to make a documentary about how exactly Big Meech did the snitching. But essentially, the story goes that Big Meech did something called third-party snitching. That he got someone that he loved and trusted with everything to snitch for him. That someone being Tammy Cohen's. Listen closely. People guess that the reason that Tammy owns Big Meech's life rights is Big Meech might have said something like, hey, Tammy, if you go snitch for me, I'll give you my life rights. It's going to be worth a lot of money. Or Big Meech might have gave her his life rights and said, you see how much I love and trust you? Can you snitch for me? Either way, the result is Tammy snitches for him. But okay, here's the tricky part. The snitching actually didn't work. Tammy was apparently caught watching Netflix, if you don't know what that means, look in the comments, with the federal agent that she was snitching to. The judge said, hey, yo, the deal does not count. Snitching off the table. A federal agent said, why? The judge said, are you stupid? How do we know if you were doing your job honestly or if you were just trying to get favors from Tammy? Federal agent said, oh, that's a good point. All right, I'm gonna turn in my badge. Now, even though the snitching did not work, Big Meech got out early anyway. According to the courts, it was simply because Big Meech didn't cause any problems in prison and he seemed to really turn his life around. It also might be because we treat drug offenses less harshly than we used to back then when the war on drugs was like at its height. Now, 50 Cent's point is basically, even though Big Meech didn't get out for snitching, he still snitched. It didn't work for him, but he still did it. Sure, he got out on good behavior, but again, he still tried to snitch on everyone. Big Meech again saying that is not true. I didn't snitch, I did my time. And to be fair to Big Meech, there's so many hidden parts to the story that haven't been revealed. So far, people can only speculate as to whether he snitched or not. So far, everybody kind of has their own take. But again, Big Meech saying, don't listen to 50 Cent, I did not snitch. Rick Ross said, yeah, 50, matter of fact, you don't know who you messing with, 50, that's Big Meech. Me and Big Meech finna do a movie our damn selves. 50 Cent said, Rick Ross? Rick Ross said, oh. 50 said, I wouldn't do that, because in fact, I own the life rights. Big Meech said, but I gave my life rights to Tammy Cohen. The TikToker said it himself. 50 Cent said, yeah, but then she sold them to me. So now I'm finna make a story about how you snitching. Yes, in a surprising twist, 50 Cent reveals that he now in fact owns Big Meech's life rights, meaning that he owns the rights to Big Meech's life story. And imagine if your op owns the rights to your life story. That's tough. Rick Ross said, damn, bro, that's tough. But don't worry, we still finna do a benefit concert for you, Big Meech. We finna get it popping. Well, it turns out the venue canceled the concert because apparently it didn't sell enough tickets, which makes sense. Remember what I said earlier, Big Meech and BMF are more infamous, not celebrated. People aren't going, whoa, Big Meech is home, let me go see him in concert. People mostly just don't care. Rick Ross said, damn, all right, Meech, I'ma holla at you. Oh. And of course, 50 Cent rubbed in the fact that the concert didn't go through. In fact, I don't think this beef is close to over. In fact, while 50 Cent was beefing with Big Meech and Rick Ross, he was beefing with like 5 other people at the same exact time. He told Big Meech's son, hey, we never doing another show again, your career over. He posted this picture making fun of somebody who passed away, Irv Gotti. Yeah, when I said 50 Cent's gonna beef with you for life, I didn't mean your life, I meant his life. Irv Gotti is basically one of the first people 50 Cent started beefing with. Irv Gotti, founder of a group called Erder Inc. with Ja Rule. This is where the 50 Cent and Ja Rule beef comes from. I made a video about it. But all in all, this beef was so bad, it's the reason 50 Cent got 9 times. Because hey, would you look at that? It's another crime lord, a man named Kenneth Supreme, who 50 Cent also had beef with. 50 Cent's beef with Ja Rule, Irv Gotti, and Kenneth Supreme all intertwined, which again ended up with 50 getting 9 times and surviving. Of course, it's way more complicated than that. Go watch the other video. But anyway, as for 50 Cent and Big Meech, we're still in the middle of the story. So we're going to have to wait and see if 50 Cent drops a documentary about Big Meech allegedly snitching.
So the story goes, the Ark of the Covenant, it's lost. Some people say it's in Ethiopia, and then there's another story, supposedly Muhammad, he went, found the Ark of the Covenant, brought it back to Mecca, and buried it.
Wait, that's ours.
But this is where it gets weird. They were building a new mosque in Mecca in like 2015, and they supposedly dug it up without knowing it was there. And as soon as they reached it, there was a giant sandstorm that came blowing in. This crane fell, killed 100 people.
Oh my gosh.
And then all the people around it said that it looked like a plasma explosion shot into the sky.
Oh my gosh.
And then shortly after that, a connection happened. Kirill, who's the head of the Russian Orthodox Church, met with the Pope and supposedly grabbed the Ark of the Covenant, and straight from the port in Saudi Arabia, the Russian Navy ship went straight to Antarctica. But the theory is that the Pope knew where the Ark of the Covenant was and teamed up with the Russian Orthodox Church, took the Ark of the Covenant from Mecca and placed it in Antarctica.
What?
That's weird.
Weird stuff.
That's a lot of land, and that's a lot of money.
World Conspiracy Theories. We are now on Part 3, Tier 6, starting off with the Eye of Africa. So the Eye of Africa, also known as the Richat structure, or just the Eye of the Sahara, is a roughly 30-mile wide geological formation that kind of looks like a giant eye. Officially, the scientific opinion is that this was thought to be formed possibly from tectonic activity or volcanic activity, which people will use this excuse to say, no, there's no way that Atlantis could have existed there, but I think a civilization could have also existed there, but also be formed naturally, personally. So that's the point of this one. A lot of people claim that the Eye of the Sahara, or the Eye of Africa, is the lost city of Atlantis, as it resembles how Atlantis was described by Plato. So Atlantis was described as an empire made up of 10 kingdoms. This empire was said to have a lost city called Atlantis that was the capital. It was said to be made up of concentric circles, 2 of water and 3 of land. And as you can see, the Richat structure, it appears to be exactly that. It even has a ton of salt deposits in the center of where the water would be, which, where does salt come from? What's really interesting that I learned recently is that Plato learned the story of Atlantis because it was passed down through generations from a guy named Solon, who actually learned about it in Egypt, which is a lot closer to where this structure would have been. Anyways, a lot of people nowadays hate the idea of Atlantis being real, but I need this. Please, let me have this one. The moon is artificial. This is a fun one. A few reasons why people think the moon is an artificial object is because, for one, a lot of people think that the moon is millions of years older than Earth. Also, Earth is the only planet in our solar system that has a moon that is roughly 1/4 its size. So it's way larger than all the other moons compared to their planets. But the third thing, what I find is most strange, is that the moon perfectly covers the sun during a solar eclipse. Do you ever think about that? Like, why does the moon perfectly cover the sun? The odds would be astronomical for this to occur naturally. Anyways, people also point to how there's a lot of seismic activity on the moon where they experience earthquakes or moonquakes, and how the moon shakes much longer than the Earth does, even being quoted as ringing like a bell during these moonquakes by Professor Clive Neal, who does geological sciences at the University of Notre Dame. Now, most people will say that this happens because the moon is so dry, but some people literally think it's hollow by the way it reacts to these moonquakes. So the overall conspiracy theory here is that some people think the moon is either hollow or it somehow was put here by some sort of entities that wanted to study us, and so they moved an artificial satellite into our area to observe us, and it's just like the Truman Show. We're living in the Truman Show. I am Truman. I'm always filming myself. Skinwalkers. These are entities that came from Navajo legends here in North America about these witch things who basically they form some sort of evil ritual that allows them to shapeshift into animals. Usually these things are seen as evil, and they spread bad omens or curses onto other groups of people. They're said to walk around in animal furs, usually like predator furs like coyotes or wolves, so that they can shapeshift into those animals that the fur is that they're wearing. Most prominently in today's culture, I'm sure you guys have heard of Skinwalker Ranch. This is a place in Utah where people have claimed a lot of different strange phenomenon has happened, like UFOs, interdimensional creatures, and then like Skinwalker-like creatures, and they make a big dramatic show about it. But my conspiracy theory is that Skinwalker Ranch did it for the money. Moving on to the 7th tier. First up, we have Ancient Aliens. Ancient Aliens is the idea that things from the past were either built by or greatly influenced by literal extraterrestrial beings, or that there used to be aliens on Earth, or maybe they still are. So maybe things like pyramids or Stonehenge was made by aliens, or that like the giant picture things that are in the desert that you can only see from the sky, what are they called, the Nazca lines, were created for aliens to see because they were flying across the planet and they're like, we gotta build those for the aliens, and then they did it. Or maybe like the story of the Anunnaki, these creatures that enslaved humanity and gave them technology, was actually a story about aliens from another planet hidden in our solar system that wanted gold, so we mined it for them, and then they gave the Sumerians super advanced knowledge, and that's why they had advanced systems back in the day. Obviously, most notoriously, there's an Ancient Aliens show on the History Channel that everybody knows about. Aliens. Alright, the back rooms. I love the back rooms. I'm from the back room. The origins of the back rooms came from this one picture that went viral online a while ago. It shows this yellow room that has really dim lighting and yellow wallpaper, and it's like an empty office space with weird walls. And a lot of people started commenting on this picture saying it made them feel uneasy, but they felt like they had seen it before. And what's cool, I just learned this recently, is that up until May 2024, nobody knew where that picture actually originated from. But it was now discovered that that image actually originated from a furniture store in Wisconsin that was getting renovated. And so that's why there's a lot of weird partitions, like the weird walls there that were kind of set up to display furniture. Anyways, in the folklore, the online folklore of the back rooms, it's a place where people no-clip out of reality, kind of like in a video game where you walk through a wall or go through the floor, and then you're trapped in this never-ending maze of yellow rooms where you can't figure out how to get out, and maybe there's an entity in there. Kane Pixels on YouTube did an incredible series on the back rooms. If you haven't seen that, I highly recommend watching that. I don't know what the conspiracy theory is on this. Maybe it's just the back rooms is real. Skyquakes. This is a really interesting one that I feel like a lot of people should know about. So skyquakes are this unexplained worldwide phenomenon where people in different parts of the world all hear a similar strange sound that seems to be coming from the sky. Usually it's described as a horn or like loud thunder while there's no clouds in the sky. They say that the sound might cause vibrations in the room that you're in, and the people that experience these skyquakes usually don't have an explanation for what is causing them, but normally, when they're heard, multiple people in different areas hear the same thing and report the same thing. Explanations for what skyquakes actually are range from being like jets breaking the sound barrier, to meteors burning up in the atmosphere, or even like massive underwater caves collapsing underneath the ocean. But some people think that it's literally earthquakes that cause these really weird, strange sounds to be heard up in the sky, or seem like they're coming from the sky. But overall, we still have no idea what they are as of 2025. Sea peoples. So, sea peoples are a very strange group of people from history. It's a big mysterious group of people that appeared out of nowhere, it seemed like, in the Mediterranean Sea. And they were really good at attacking coastlines. So good, actually, that Egypt was even scared of them when Egypt was nearing the end of its peak. The sea peoples were made up of different groups of tribes, such as the Lukka and the Weshesh tribe, whose origins are still unknown today. Basically, they were pirates that were really good at attacking, but then also, once they conquered a city or a village, they would get more people to help them attack and conquer. But yeah, they mainly attacked coastal cities and towns, and they attacked Egypt twice, and it was a big deal. Everybody was like, wow, they waged 2 campaigns, military campaigns on Egypt. That's unbelievable. How are they doing this and not being wiped out? But what's so cool is that the Sea Peoples were believed to be a major contribution to why the Bronze Age collapse happened. So that's really cool. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. We just finished Tier 7 of 18 different tiers, so stick around if you want to hear more, and I appreciate you, and I hope TikTok doesn't get banned. But if it does, then please go to my YouTube channel. I really could use the support there, or you can follow me on Instagram. Thank you guys, we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Why the fuck would The Simpsons predict something so dark? Just watch this shit.
Maybe not tomorrow, maybe never. But it's coming. And soon. Don't worry, kids. The government will help. The government cannot help itself, let alone you. So to take your minds off your troubles, I propose some kind of games, either hunger or squid.
Hold on, you tell me, didn't Trump just bring this up in his last speech?
We need double the energy we currently have in the United States. Can you imagine? They said, wow, you're kidding. And I said, no, I'm not kidding. You don't have to hook into the grid, which is old and, could be taken out. If it's taken out, they wouldn't have any electricity.
They have slowly been putting it in front of our faces for years, even on some of the biggest stages.
A large blackout affecting the entire, or a large portion of the United States of America. The unfortunate news is that the threat of such a blackout is very real. Thousands of people sit without electricity. Imagine what that's like. You walk outside, you turn on your phone, there's no signal. You go back inside, you turn on the TV, no signal. You turn on the radio, no power. You turn on the faucet, no water. You turn on the fridge, no refrigeration, your food starts to spoil. You walk outside, cars pile up, no streetlights. In big cities, if you're in New York, LA, San Francisco, Chicago, DC, within 3 to 5 days, the food is gone from the grocery stores. The first few days, we're desperately trying to evacuate people trapped in elevators, have now left their positions like many did during Katrina to protect themselves and their own families.
And when something like this happens, books and information are going to be some of the most powerful resources because nobody is going to have a clue what to do. Which is exactly why everybody in my family has one of these. How to build your own water filter. How to purify water, how to make water out of drinkable air, how to charge your phone when there's no electricity, how to get power out of dead batteries, how to make your own solar panel system, DIY air conditioner, and a whole bunch of other information all packed into this one book. The only issue is they've already sold out once this month, so if you see the orange card somewhere down here below, make sure you get it while it's still on sale.
Have you ever heard of the story, the Epic of Gilgamesh? Yeah. The story was written 2000 BC. The story talks about how he was 2/3 God and 1/3 man. And the claim was that he was 17 feet tall.
Oh man.
And he was this brutal king, like just tyrant. The story goes that he was buried under the Euphrates River.
That's drying up.
Well, here's the thing. In 2003, a archaeologist by the name of Jörg Fassbinder, he was in the Mesopotamia area and doing like the whole LiDAR thing. And what he said is, I have found the tomb of Gilgamesh.
Oh my gosh.
But it's underground, right? So they have to like dig it up. Guess what happened 1 month later?
Earthquake.
The U.S. invades Iraq.
Oh my gosh!
No way! Oh man!
This is where it gets crazy.
Yeah.
All the archaeological sites were then stopped in Iraq, so stop digging, you're out of here. But the locals around this encampment, the U.S. encampment, reported that the U.S. military were digging at night, taking things out of the ground and putting them onto trucks and driving them off.
We're villains.
What if I told you we used to move buildings with the people still inside? Entire structures, some weighing thousands of tons, picked up, shifted, and relocated without taking a single brick apart or asking a single person to leave. No, this isn't science fiction. It's a forgotten engineering marvel of human history. And here's the wild part. It wasn't just for small houses or sheds. I'm talking about entire multi-story apartment blocks, churches, and even lighthouses being rolled across cities like they were on some kind of colossal conveyor belt. Take 1987 in Romania, for example. They didn't just demolish a massive apartment building to make way for infrastructure. Oh no, they moved it. This was a 7,600-ton concrete beast, and instead of tearing it down, they slid it over like it was on ice skates. The craziest part, people were still living in it. Imagine sitting on your couch, sipping tea, and casually gliding across town. That actually happened, but how? The process was so insane, it sounds like something straight out of a heist movie. Engineers laid down a series of steel tracks and rollers beneath the building, then used hydraulic jacks and winches to gently push it along, inch by inch. The precision required was mind-blowing. One mistake, and you're looking at a catastrophe. Yet, these operations were pulled off with almost no damage to the structures or the surrounding areas, and this wasn't just limited to Romania. In the 1930s, America, they moved the Indiana Bell Telephone Company building, an 11,000-ton structure, by rotating it 90 degrees to make way for another building. Here's the kicker. They did it while the employees were still working inside. That's right, people were using typewriters, making phone calls, and filing paperwork as the building moved beneath them. But here's the question they don't want you asking. Why did we stop? Why is it that we now demolish and rebuild, even though we have technology far more advanced than the hydraulic systems of the past? Think about it. Moving A building preserves its history, its soul. It's efficient and sustainable. Yet, today, we see endless demolition and reconstruction. The materials are wasted, the labor costs skyrocket, and the profits, well, they go to the oligarchs. Maybe this isn't just about practicality. Maybe it's about control. By tearing down and rebuilding, the oligarchs keep us constantly consuming. A new building means new materials, new taxes, and more profit for them. But moving a building, that's a one-time cost, a feat of engineering brilliance that doesn't line their pockets. So, next time you walk past a shiny new skyscraper or watch an old building get torn down, ask yourself, why aren't we still sliding structures down the street like we used to? Because if we could move a 7,600-ton apartment block in 1987 with people inside, what's stopping us now? Or better yet, who's stopping us? I'm going to go ahead and say this is just a joke for entertainment purposes.
When you visit DC, it feels like you're walking through Rome with all the architecture and all the pagan idols and the statues, the monuments, Roman pantheon being recreated and shepherded by Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson wanted to see reconstructed pagan temples to the old gods. He wanted that to be, when you're walking down DC, this is what you're going to see, and he was successful in that. Being raised to think that America was built as a Christian nation, you would expect to see crosses. You would expect to see statues of apostles. I don't know. That's just what I have in my mind. If you're going to go, you're going to see some representation of that, and you don't see any of that there. Like, it really feels like you're walking in Rome. And everybody knows about the pentagrams, and a lot of people will look down and say, even with the pentagram that's on the street layout, they'll look at it and they'll say, oh, well, it's not a complete pentagram because it's missing a leg. The purpose behind it is actually for rituals, for ritual purposes, to be able to harness the power of Osiris, for example, as we talked about with the inauguration of every U.S. president, and calling down that, or calling up the seat of Osiris to allow the government to have a divine representation. And that goes all the way back to the Pharaoh and
lightning striking the Washington Monument just here recently. It was a big deal. I don't think it did any damage. I don't know. I didn't really look into it. But the video that I saw, and I suggest somebody, everybody look into this. Look at the video of the recent Washington Monument getting struck by lightning. That's what they're calling it, by the way. All I could think about was, this looks like a massive ritual is happening right now. Like, this doesn't just look like lightning striking something. This looks like some Ghostbusters satanic ritual taking place, drawing down the power. I'm not saying that's what was going on, but that's the first thing that crossed my mind. They see it as bringing about that old form of supernatural government in the occult world and setting that up for the new world so that we can all live under this new Atlantis. That's literally the goal that we're heading towards.
Going to a UN meeting as an independent of the World Federalists, and they were handed this book, this little booklet, and it talked about the need for a world king. How do you look at that? It sounds very familiar and reminiscent of the Antichrist, a world king, a world dictator. I think the things that we're seeing today is setting the stage for that. As we document in Belly of the Beast, they're having to implode America from the inside in order to bring it down so that they can have a global order out of chaos.
What if I told you the most innocent hand signs of our time have a completely different meaning than what we're told? Think about the hand signs you see everywhere today. The heart sign, the rock on hand sign, and even the OK symbol. They seem harmless, right? But what if they weren't? What if their origins are far darker than we've been led to believe? Take the rock on hand sign, for example. Anton LaVey, founder of the Church of Satan, openly called this the sign of the horns. According to him, it's not a gesture of rock and roll rebellion. It's a curse sign. Yes, some people claim it was used historically to ward off the evil eye or spirits. But what if I told you that was just the way they deceived people back then? Before rock music was a thing, even the sign of the one eye, the Eye of Ra, back in ancient Egypt was said to be a symbol of warding off evil, repelling all negative energy, and restoring harmony. Are we going to believe that as well now? And then what are the chances that practically the same hand sign means I love you in American Sign Language? I love you, Satan, more like, or maybe you're just cursing each other. Then there's the heart sign. It's been spun into countless feel-good stories about its origins, but the truth might be hiding in plain sight. Think about it. It looks nothing like an actual beating heart. But this gesture mimics not just one, but a few anatomical parts of the human body, subtly designed to trigger subconscious lust, whether you realize it or not. It's not about love. It's about manipulation. And when you think about who they've got using the symbol in our population, it's just plain creepy. And let's not forget the OK sign. You've probably heard about its controversial interpretations. Some say it's a harmless gesture. Others link it to something sinister. But why is it that every time you dig into these hand signs, you end up finding connections to secret societies, occult symbols, rituals, and every popular gesture of today mirrored back at you? It's no coincidence that hand signs, in general, are most popular among gangs and Satanists. Both model citizens, right? They use them intentionally. The rest of us, we're just following along blindly, mimicking what we see without a second thought. So, the next time you make a hand sign, question it. If these hand signs were truly innocent, do you really think they'd be so heavily pushed into the mainstream? I'm going to go ahead and say this is just a joke for entertainment purposes.
A new bill that was just introduced is trying to make Donald Trump's birthday a federal holiday.
Really?
This U.S. Representative Claudia Tenney has introduced a bill to make Donald Trump's birthday a national holiday here in America. She said that she wants to make June 14th a new federal holiday that would be known as Trump's birthday and Flag Day. She said no modern president has been more pivotal for our country than Donald J. Trump. As both our 45th and 47th president, he is the most consequential president in modern American history, leading our country at a time of great international and domestic turmoil. She said, quote, by designating Trump's birthday and Flag Day as a federal holiday, we can ensure President Trump's contributions to American greatness and the importance of the American flag are forever enshrined into law. So I guess if enough people vote on it, we are going to have Donald Trump's birthday be a federal holiday here in America.
I'm just trying to figure out what happened to the NBA that I love, because now we've got white boys looking like our saviors during Black History Month. This weekend is NBA All-Star Weekend, and for those who don't know, All-Star Weekend has been in a real decline in terms of the entertainment factor over the past few years. Last year, the Steph and Sabrina three-point contest was like the biggest part of the whole weekend, and then this year they decided they weren't going to do it. So now Steph is not competing in any three-point contest while All-Star Weekend is in the Bay Area. Speaking of the three-point contest, Damian Lillard, who won the past 2 years, was looking like this during the competition. Tyler Hero ended up winning the whole thing with 24 points, which for context, Sabrina had 26 and Steph had 29 when they played last year. Then let's get into the slam dunk contest. The NBA is wondering why their viewership is so low when these are the players they have competing in the dunk contest. And no disrespect to Mac McClung, he won for the third year in a row. He was jumping over cars. He was dunking 2 balls at once. But Mac has been playing in the G League most of the season. Like, where are the All-Stars competing in the dunk contest during All-Star Weekend? But then John Morant did end up tweeting that Mac made him want to dunk, and Giannis said that he would do it too. So I better see both of them and Anthony Edwards competing in this dunk contest next year. I will say the only other entertaining part of All-Star Weekend was Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama's reactions when they found out they were disqualified after cheating in the skills challenge. Tonight is the actual All-Star game with this new 4-team format. I think it'll be a little bit more interesting than how the last few years have gone, but let me know what you guys think.
And we've come to the end of the video. This was long but then so interesting and a lot of information for us to grasp. And I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and also share with your friends, and also click on the notification bell icon so that any video that I post you will be the first to get it. Adios amigos, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Bye.